Can I order a new deck?
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever the case may be, wherever you are in this bright, wonderful world. Welcome to Blacklist Universe. Please do like, subscribe. Subscribe if you have not subscribed already. I did it. I jumped on the grenade for you guys. I went and saw a special sneak preview of Captain Marvel for your benefit so that you don't have to. Do I really need a spoiler warning on a big old pile of soggy soy covered with mold and feces? Well, that's just a terrible thing to say, Beowulf. Now, why would you say such a thing? Terrible, terrible. Yeah, you want to hear something funny before we start? So my buddy that had the tickets didn't show up. Hashtag freaking Paul. So Paul doesn't show up. And so Eric and I are waiting there. And we're like, hey, can we get in? Because we have the photo of the thing on our phone, right? And they're like, no, you have to, we have to wait and see. We have to let everybody with tickets in first. And I'm like looking and I'm like, there's only like maybe a total of 100 people there. And so they all go in. And we got in without tickets because there were so few people there. They couldn't fill like a third of the auditorium for a free sneak preview of Captain Marvel. So you got in free with no tickets whatsoever. Be honest, Mike, it sucked, right? I'm not going to start with it sucked. What I'm going to start with is the entire plot. Yes, I sat down and I wrote down scene for scene what happened in the movie, and I'm now going to explain it to you. As I said, this is a spoiler-riddled review, so I am going to tell you what happens so that you do not have to see it for yourselves. Was the audience overwhelmingly white and male? No, it was families. It was men. It was a mix of men and women. Just mostly families. We were in Chula Vista, so whatever. Spoil it. You lived. You are a little more dead inside. All right. So I wrote down notes of the entire thing. Let us see if I can get there. Let me see first if I can find screenshots appropriate to the individual things that happened. So let's see. We begin. Where do we begin? Let's see. Does she begin with like these weird visions? She does have these weird visions, like barely remembering things from her past. Actually, that's the right one, not the wrong one. So she has a false remembrance of this occurrence in the beginning. But anyways, so she has this dream, and then she wakes up and then goes to Jude Law's room and is like, I can't sleep. Except she says it with no inflection because she is about as charismatic as a plank of wood after it's been run over by a steam truck several times. So she goes to Jude Law's room and she says, I can't sleep. And he's like, well, they have pills for that. And she's like, but then I would sleep. And then he says, oh, but then you would dream. Right? The dreams are bad. And then she's like, want to fight? And so they go and they fight. And they have this poorly choreographed. She's not a good fighter. And you can tell they're using a body double for her fight scenes. But not great. I have to tell you right up front, everyone in the film did a fine job acting. Jude Law is, as always, Jude Law. Samuel L. Jackson, I don't find him to be the world's greatest actor, but he was Samuel L. Jackson. Nick Fury, he was not, but he was Samuel L. Jackson. Ben Mendelsohn, he frankly was. He was a highlight of the film. He was quite I'll get to that. All right. And then during this fight scene, the theme of the movie is stated, which is, and yes, this was the theme of the movie. Bear with me. Be the best you can be. That's the theme of this movie. Be the best you can be. So after that, for some reason I can't really recall being important, she goes to see the Supreme Intelligence. And the Supreme Intelligence is housed in this giant, like building at the center of their citadel, of their city. And she goes there, and it's not the Supreme Intelligence like in the comics. It's like nobody ever sees the Supreme Intelligence, and it just like has these weird tentacles that come up and touch you in the face and stuff. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. And it touches you, on your fingers and your face and stuff like that. And then you get a vision of not the Supreme Intelligence, but of the person you admire most. And so this person she admires most, she doesn't know who it is because she's lost all her memories. But, that's supposed to all clue you into later on in the movie. It's actually Annette Bening. And so the Supreme Intelligence, which, is like, it's supposed to be like the supreme artificial intelligence, right? It's not supposed to have nefarious intentions. It's supposed to be like the ultimate AI. Unless I remember the Supreme Intelligence completely wrong from the comics. That is what the Kree Supreme Intelligence is supposed to be. It's not Space Hitler. It's not some emotional being. It is the Supreme Intelligence. That's why it's called the Supreme Intelligence. Anyways, so the Supreme Intelligence tells her, oh gosh, I don't even remember what the point of that scene was, except to set up the Supreme Intelligence for later in the movie. Be the best you can be. Go see Supreme Intelligence. The setup, they have to go. One of the Kree is supposedly captured, and so they have to go to this city or this planet and try to rescue the Kree from the Skrulls in case the Skrulls get there, because the Skrulls are the bad guys, the big bad guys, the Skrulls. And so they go there, and Captain there's a nice fun little fight scene. It turns out everybody is a Skrull, so they all attack. And then one of the Skrulls captures Captain Marvel, who actually, no, her name's just what is her name? Veers in her name. Her name is Veers in the movie. If I had a dime every time a movie has a space Hitler. And so she gets captured, right? And then they take her to, they know who she is, right? Somehow or another, the Skrulls know who she is specifically, and they were looking for her because she's got some information in her brain. So they plug her into this fancy schmancy brain info sucker outer. And they put her in these strange manticles that are clearly designed to restrain her power, except then it is revealed that they didn't realize she had that power. So that was an interesting whoops. Yeah, so this is the part where you get to see a few more flashbacks from her, her youth and her growing ups and stuff. Any comment on the Supreme Intelligence being replaced by Annette Bening? So, okay, the Supreme Intelligence, like I said, it is rather than the big giant head with the tentacles, the Supreme Intelligence has the tentacles that touch your head, and then you see, as a representative of the Supreme Intelligence, the person you admire most. And so she admires Annette Bening the most. So that's the commentary on that. Annette Bening, I've never thought was a good actress, but she did better than Brie Larson, and that's as much as I'm going to say about that. Yeah, so the Skrulls were looking for coordinates from Earth, so they take her to Earth, and then she escapes, after beating up, 20 Skrulls on their ship, steals one of their escape pods because she has, using her powers, she has collapsed the integrity of the main hull of the ship. She ends up crashing on Earth, as do all the surviving Skrulls, which aren't that many. And then she lands in a blockbuster. And then we get a bunch of the 90s jokes. Nick Fury shows up, Coulson shows up. She's somehow using a telephone. She rigs up a telephone to communicate with the Kree, several galaxies away, which, yeah, it really doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but whatever. I'll let that pass. And then, Coulson and Fury are about to arrest her, but a Skrull from a rooftop next to her tries to take a pot shot at him, and so she shoots at them and then chases the Skrull, and then they get on the fight on the train where she beats up the old woman, and then blah 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 blah. The Coulson riding with Fury turns out to be a Skrull. He gets into an accident, kills the Skrull. They go to the secret, or they take the Skrull back to headquarters. Fury does, and it turns and they do an autopsy of it, and then it turns out that his boss is Ben Mendelsohn, who is actually a Skrull. Yeah. So then Danvers or Dan Vers, right? Get it? Funny. Here, let me see if there's any other pictures that relate to what's going on, what I'm talking about. And we'll just stick with this picture for now. She steals some clothes off of a mannequin, steals a guy's motorcycle, and then drives off to a bar that apparently she can somehow remember from one of her flashbacks or something like that. And then somehow Nick Fury finds her at the bar. Oh, because I remember he says, like, yeah, I got a lead on a woman fitting her description stealing a motorcycle. So, this is 1995. So obviously, if you get a little information about a woman on a motorcycle, you'll totally find her at the bar, the random bar out in the middle of the desert that she was heading for, because that's how interconnected the world was in 1995, right? Yes. Let's see. Red Skull. Okay, so then she convinces Fury that, because he's just seen an autopsy of an alien, he believes her story now. And then he's like, well, how do I know you're not a Skrull? And you might have seen this ridiculous scene in the movie, in the commercials, where she's like, how do I know you're not a Skrull? And so she blows up a jukebox with her hand. Then she says, oh, Skrulls can't do that. Like, oh, that's excellent logic. Thank you, ma'am. You're not, yeah. And then she does this smug thing where she like rests her chin on her hand, like, haha, I just blew up a jukebox. I'm not a Skrull. So that's fun. Actually, it's not. It was super irritating. She's really, really flat and irritating in the entire movie. It's sad because really the rest of the movie, if it weren't for her, it would have been a passable movie. Like I said, everyone else pretty much did a good job. But yeah, they should have just used a mannequin. I think a mannequin might have had better range. Let's see. So they end up going to this Pegasus base, which she remembers from her little flashbacks. And when they get in, they get locked up because, you know, he's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And therefore, they lock him up at this Pegasus base as soon as he gets there. And then he uses a thumbprint that he steals off of his own ID to get out of the room. And then she blows a hole in another door because she thought it was funny watching him do all that stuff. There's all this little like attempts at banter and humor that fall just completely flat. I did laugh maybe 3 times through the movie, but one of them was Jaimin Hansu. One of them was Nick Fury, and one of them was Ben Mendelsohn. So nothing delivered by Brie Larson was funny in the slightest. But again, there were talented actors in this movie. Let's see. So they get out. They find the cat named Goose. And Fury calls his boss to tell him where they are, that they've been locked up. And, you know, the boss turns out being a Skrull. So the Skrull brings all of S.H.I.E.L.D. there to hunt down and kill Nick Fury if necessary, which that makes total sense. Because they said that, you know, oh, he's working with the thing now, or with the alien, which in my eyes makes the Skrull the bad guy, right? That makes the Skrull the bad guy if he's telling them to kill Nick Fury right off the bat. So they fight. Oh my gosh. I've had this problem with Samuel L. Jackson since Star Wars. This guy sucks at action scenes. This guy cannot throw a punch. This guy cannot swing a lightsaber. This guy should never do action scenes. He looks like a geriatric old man trying to, you know, beat up a freaking ragdoll or something. I don't know. He's just terrible. Thank God his action scene was very, very short. But yeah. Let's see. Goes Pegasus base. He finds the cat. Oh yeah. Then they get away in a jet in the famous, "Can you fly this thing?" "I don't know. Maybe. It's a yes or no question, lady." And then, "Yes. Because, you know, I can do anything. Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do better than, I can do anything better than you." That's Miss Marvel's theme song. Let's see. Is there a picture of her in the jet? Now let's just use this picture for fun. This is on the train. Is that even gonna? There it goes. "Meh, I can do anything better than you." This is a non-spoiler. No, this is an absolute spoiler. I'm telling you everything that happens in this movie. All right, so let's see. The cat, the fights gets away. Oh yeah, they take off in the jet, and then they go to see her old friend Rambeau, which I can't remember her first name, but it's Monica Rambeau's mother, who she was best friends with, and a capable actress. The scene, you know, they have a couple scenes together. The only reason I don't buy the scenes is because of how absolutely wooden Brie Larson is. Absolutely wooden. Like, you might as well be talking to a wall. She has no chemistry with anyone. She has no charisma. She doesn't play off of anyone. She's just trying to remember. You can see this blank look in her face. Like, is it my line yet? 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 Oh, my line. Suit me up, Uncle Alfred. Yeah, she is that bad in this movie. Honestly, Marvel, if you had just cast someone with a smidgen of personality, anyone with a smidgen of personality, and someone who filled that suit out a little better would have helped a little bit too. Oh, what the heck? Close that thing. So, come on. Stupid. Let's see. Where am I? Coulson's de-aging looked pretty good. Let's see. They get in the jet. They go to Rambeau. Somehow, the handful of Skrulls that are still alive. Actually, I think at this point there's 2. They find her. The Skrulls find her at Rambeau's house, which doesn't make any sense, but what the heck. And they find a way to convince her that Mar-Vell... Oh, by the way, Annette Bening was Mar-Vell. Okay? So she gets her powers not from Mar-Vell, but because of Mar-Vell. But that's how she gets her powers. They say that, you know, they have the black box from the ship that crashed with her and Mar-Vell in it, and that's how they ended up getting. So they play the black box recording, and which is on a DVD or a CD, which I'm trying to remember clearly here. It was 1989. That plane crash was in 1989. Okay, so there were CDs. They were using CDs in 1989. But they were using music CDs. I think, gosh, were they still using 3.5? I was sitting here trying to think of this in the movie. Were they still using 3-inch floppy disks in 1989? But they say that they had the recording of the black box, and they don't bring out like the black box. They bring out a CD, and then they put it in the computer, and it takes 5 minutes to load the audio. And then, you know, they listen to it, and then you get this flashback of what actually happened. And what had actually happened, it was the Kree who killed Mar-Vell, and who and then when she blew up the power source in the project plane she was working on, all of that power from that source, which they don't really explain because I believe they were using Tesseract energy. So I don't, that part gets a little muddy to me in my understanding. But that power, when it explodes, it just goes into Carol Danvers. And then she loses her memory. They take her to the Kree world, and they train her up as a Kree warrior with, you know, the superpowers. But they put a little doohickey on her neck to control her powers and to be able to turn her powers off. Why they didn't just find some way to extract the powers from her, because it was that power I think that they wanted. Oh no, wait. Yeah, it was, but they wanted the Tesseract. That's the MacGuffin in this movie. It's the Tesseract. Spoilers. Sorry. So it turns out that the Skrulls, who have always, from my recollection, been the bad guys in Marvel lore, in Marvel history, they turn out to be poor, downtrodden refugees running from the evil Kree Empire that just wants to dominate them. And then this is also the explanation of, like I said, the Supreme Intelligence just wants to be like Space Hitler and dominate the world, which doesn't make any sense to me, but maybe I'm remembering it wrong. So she works with the Skrulls. She gets them up to the hidden spaceship in orbit of Mar-Vell's craft. Turns out the Kree's dude's family is there with a bunch of other refugees living in the spacecraft. And that is where they discover the Tesseract. But then the Kree show up, and now they're the bad guys. So they capture Mar-Vell. They imprison the Skrulls, who they're gonna execute all of them. Yeah, and then somehow or another, in order to get Carol Danvers back into power, I don't know how this happens. Remember at the beginning I explained that the Supreme Intelligence was housed in this giant building in the center of their town, or in the center of their citadel, or a citadel in the center of their city? Yeah. So the Supreme Intelligence just happens to like, I don't know, maybe they were carrying him there in a suitcase or something, because she interacts with the Supreme Intelligence right there, then and there, on Annette Bening's ship, on Marvel's ship. Oops, dang it. I hit the wrong button on this thing. Cancel. Cancel. I don't want you. Cancel. Stop. Stop. Stop what you're doing, because I'm about to ruin the image and the style that you're used to. So then she has another interaction with the Supreme Intelligence, where the Supreme Intelligence turns into Space Hitler, saying that, they want to control everybody and control the Skrulls, and control Captain Marvel and blah, blah, blah. And then she has this imaginary fight, because it's all taking place in her head. She has this imaginary fight with the Supreme Intelligence while she's sort of in a stasis mode in reality. But then, she finds a way in the not reality. Okay, this is what doesn't make sense. So she's got a physical device on her neck, right, that is controlling her powers. But in her mind, in her little matrix vision with the Supreme Intelligence, she breaks that thing. She rips it off and throws it on the floor. But in reality, she doesn't, because it's still there, stuck on her neck. So in the Matrix world, she sets her powers free, and then in reality, her powers flare up, but without actually removing the device that was actually... Yeah, I know. So, okay, this unleashes her full power, and that's when she starts to glow, and her eyes glow. Oh yeah, where's that lovely picture? So that's when we get "Suit Me Up, Uncle Alfred." This is where we get this image here, when she uses her ultimate power, and then that's when she escapes with the people. Her Kree buddy Jude Law calls in Ronan, right? Remember Ronan from Guardians? So he's Kree, if you recall. But they like to come in and blow stuff up. So he calls Ronan in, and Ronan and his accusers come in. Well, they come in later, sort of at the end, but that's when he calls them to come in. So they escape back to Earth. They have a nice little pew pew fight scene in the sky, where they're trying to escape and all that fun stuff. They crash. Everybody crashes. Crash lands. Blah blah blah. And then and then Ronan shows up. Ronan shows up with a fleet of like 3 or 4. Remember the Ronan's ship from Guardians, right? Probably had like 6,000 Kree manning this giant ship, right? So there's 3 of them, I think, coming through this space thing, and they're like, and you can see they're flying right over California, and they're like, send the super duper big awesome bombs. And so all of the ships, which are like spanned out probably, hundreds of miles apart, or maybe, tens of miles apart, however far apart, they are apart because they're huge ships and they're spaced out. And they all launch these gigantic coffin nukes down to the Earth. And then that's when Suit Me Up, Uncle Alfred, Captain Marvel flies up, grabs the first one, pushes it back into space, and throws it at what, oddly enough, are all the other nukes that have bunched up into one little column, so that when that first one hits the first one, they all explode. Because even though they were all spaced out like miles apart, suddenly all the nukes were like right in a row. That was interesting. And then they're like, send out the enforcers. And so all the little ships start taking off, all the little, and so you have that yay fun little scene where she's like blasting through you know, she's got her little space mask on so she can breathe in space, because remember, she's not Superman. I don't know where it is. Hard to find. But she looks like this at that time. And she goes up and she blows up all of the little spaceships, right? But then not only does she just blow up all the little spaceship, she flies all the way through one of these mega-sized mothercraft, which probably house like thousands and thousands of Kree, right? So she just genocides this entire spacecraft worth of Kree and then flies up in front of Ronan's ship like, oh, how do you like them apples? And then she like cracks her fists together and it creates this big explosion, like showing off how powerful she is. And then Ronan's like, okay, let's go. Gotta go. Bye-bye. We'll be back for you later. And then she flies back to Earth, and Jude Law's character is like, he's like, see, I'm so proud of you. You have become the best version of you. And then he like challenges her to, you know, a fight again, like they did in the beginning, you know, no powers, just hand-to-hand combat. And then she does the Harrison Ford thing and she just blasts him anyways. So she blasts him and then she goes, oh, I don't need to prove anything to you. Slay, girl. You don't need to prove nothing, no man. Oh, man. You go, girl. So then, then she drags Jude Law back to his ship and tells him to go home. He's like, I can't go home empty-handed. And she's like, you're not. You have to go tell them that I'm coming for them and I'm going to end this war against the Skrulls, right? Because the Skrulls are just peaceful, you know, just peaceful. What do you call those again? Refugees. Right. So Jude Law, good guy or bad guy? He starts out as a good guy and then he ends up being the bad guy. That is, if you consider Carol Danvers to be the good guy. All right, so sends him back up off into space by shooting his engine with her power, which I can't really explain how that would fix an engine, but whatever. Because he crash landed, his ship crash landed, and then she's trying to start the ship, and it's like, and then she shoots it with her power, and it flies off into the sky because her power can do anything. It's the super duper Mary Sue power, yay! And then she's back at the Rambo house. She gives Fury a pager, which you see in the end of Infinity War. And then she leaves to take the Skrulls to their new home. And but suddenly, now when she's up in space, not only is the wind blowing her hair, but she doesn't have to wear her space mask because apparently now she can breathe in space, which is inexplicable, but whatever. Then, yes, you've all been waiting for this moment. The cat scratches Nick Fury's eye, and that's how he loses it. The cat, however, is an alien creature. I did fail to mention that the cat ate the Tesseract, and then it also ate several Kree. And then it scratched Nick Fury's eye, and then Nick Fury lost his eye because the cat scratched his eye. So there's that. And then the end credit scene, it's the Avengers and they have Nick's pager and it suddenly stops beeping or whatever. And then they're all like, well, what's going on? Get it to work again and get it to work again. And then Scarlett Johansson is like, I want to know who this thing pages. And then she turns around and there's Captain Marvel saying, "Where's Fury?" And then that's the end scene there. I couldn't believe the applause that moment got. It was so stupid. And then the second end scene, it's just this empty desk, and I'm sitting there watching the empty desk, and I go, I bet you the cat jumps up on the desk. And then the cat jumped up on the desk, and then the cat's just sitting there, and I go, I bet you the cat barfs up the Tesseract. And then the cat barfs up the Tesseract, and then that was the end. So, anyways, that was the movie. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, again, everyone did fine. Ben Mendelsohn did great. It was, I think it was a good role for him because he wasn't the big bad guy, right? He wasn't the big bad guy. He was the false bad guy who turned out to be the meek guy who had honorable motives. So you didn't have to really feel like he was this intimidating guy, and he was funny. He was legitimately funny. He was good in the movie. What else was good about it? Jude Law, again, always fantastic. Jude Law, you're great. Love this guy. More charisma in his earlobe than this lump of wood had the entire film. Jaimin Hansu, he had a very, very small role, but it was funny. It was good. It was funny. Let's see. Yeah, all the girl empowerment stuff was just obvious and kind of dumb. Oh yeah, here's that fight scene at the beginning. They're all suited up for a fight scene. Suit me up, Uncle Alfred. The 90s, oh my gosh, it wasn't even 90s, man. Okay, so like, you know, I said at the beginning, they like, you know, you have all the 90s jokes, but it played more like for about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, maybe less. It just felt like a bad episode of Chips, you know, like, and it felt like they were trying to get that reminiscent feel of the 90s, although I think that the car they were driving was something out of the 70s, which for government issue didn't seem seemed a little out of place. Oh yeah, there's Ronan standing above the earth. Ronan. Ready to nuke the earth. But, you know, she took care of that problem. No problem. No problem for Captain Marvel. What else was good? What else was good? I mean, well, gosh, she's not good at fighting. The choreography and the fight scenes on her part was a little lackluster. What is Chips? Chips was 80s. Chips was 80s. Was it? I thought it was like late 70s, early 80s. I can't wait to not see this movie. Did they Photoshop in a Stan Lee cameo? Oh, yeah, that was the great. Okay, it started out great because you know how normally in the Marvel movies they have that Marvel and they flip through all the Marvel images, you know, before they do the Marvel logo. It was a Stan Lee homage, and I thought it was really, really nice. And then yes, they did have a Stan Lee bit. It was funny because he was reading the script from Mallrats on a bus or on the train, right? And he looks up and he's like repeating the line from Mallrats, which I get the strange feeling they just clipped from Mallrats and it wasn't actually him. Did I like the cat? It was just a cat. I didn't think it was anything, but you know, it was not just a cat. It was a strange alien creature that shoots giant tentacles out of its face and can eat multiple human-sized things at once. So how do they explain the dumb mohawk she has? It's just part of, the top of her mask, I guess. A younger Stan Lee. Oh gosh, I didn't notice if it was a younger Stan Lee. Stan Lee has looked ancient for so long, I can't remember. I'll be watching Alita instead of this garbage. I would highly recommend going to see Alita. I cannot highly recommend Captain Marvel just because you can't divorce her from the rest of the movie. And honestly, it wasn't that. Oh, you know what else was bad? Just bad. This guy, Nick Fury. So, in the Marvel universe, Nick Fury is a hard, stone cold bad A, And in this he's like, I don't know, some kind of chummy bosom buddy cop kind of character, and it's like, okay, you establish in this movie that he has already gone from a buck private to a colonel in the armed forces, and then he's been a spy in the CIA, and then left to join SHIELD. So by the time you've gone through the military for an entire career and then had a career in the CIA, by the time you get to this point in your life, you're already mother flipping Nick Fury, right? You are not still bumbling, goofy buddy cop guy from the 90s. You're Nick Fury. You're the dude that walks into Tony Stark's penthouse, right? And sits on his couch and tells him what's what. They cucked the crap out of Nick Fury for this film, and it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Grandmaster Luke Jedi says, I feel the need to apologize to Brie for being white. Yeah, they turned Sam Jackson. They turned Nick Fury. I don't care about Sam Jackson. They turned Nick Fury into a goofy sidekick. So unlike his character. And then, yeah. Oh, they scratched the cat. The cat alien scratched his eye, and that's how he loses it. It doesn't even scratch his eye. It just like scratches his like eyelid or something, and he loses his eye. I'm still trying to think of things I liked about it. So we got Giant Hansu. I liked him. I already said that though. Coulson was Coulson. He was consistent. Hmm. The CG was good. The CG was good. You know what would have been good though? If they could have CG'd somebody's face onto her that had some sort of expression and emotion. That would have been good. Oh, and oh my gosh. The way she runs, I hate to sound misogynistic here. She runs like a girl, right? You spent all this time in this movie trying to build up what a bad, shut your mouth, tough tomboy. You have all these scenes of her doing these tomboy things when she's young and yelling at her daddy for not letting her do the things that her brothers can do. And then you see her running and she's just like, she's running like such a girl. It's like, oh my gosh, you can't build a character up to be this one thing. And then her mannerisms are so like pretty and pink. It's just ridiculous. She ran like Steven Seagal. Oh, Ben Jumpetti, you're funny. So yeah, was her butt CG'd? I didn't see her butt CG'd. And I don't remember any any turnaround butt shots where we would have gotten a good look. They did not try to play up her womanly assets at all. This was directed by co-directed by a woman, and I'm pretty sure she was like, we are not going to play up this character's assets at all. So let's make sure that we never put her in any position where you might think of her as a woman, because you really didn't. I mean, look at this. I mean, it's a cool design. I got to say that because I'm friends with the guy that designed it. But it is just really bulky and it's not designed to feminize her, right? It is not. It's this illustration. Nope. No, it's just not. It's not designed like Black Widow. Black Widow should be more designed to feminize, but it's not. Oh yeah, and this chick was cool. The one on the right here. I would have rather have spent more time seeing her story because she was far more interesting, and you hardly ever got to see her. Again, Annette Bening, never been a favorite of mine. Ugh. And Top Gun, 285 people watching. Holy cow! All right, guys. Well, I think I got it all off my chest. Did you guys here, let me see if you guys got any questions before I sign off on this sucker. Let me pop this out real quick. I do want to end the stream in a few minutes, but I will take a few questions. Mike, so no Marvel. Yeah, Annette Bening was Marvel. Zeno. Annette freaking Bening was Marvel, and she did not have powers. She was just a scientist working on a faster than light drive engine or some crap like that. Scarlett Johansson doesn't run like a girl. That's right. Somehow or another, they trained her that if you're going to pretend or if you're going to act to be some bad shut your mouth assassin chick, then you're going to have to learn to run like you got a pair. And she does. Same thing with like, what's her face from, Fury Road, Furiosa. What's her name? I can't remember. But yeah, you can teach, you can learn. If you're a girl, you can learn to run like you mean it, I guess is a good way to say it. Run like you mean it. Don't run like, Was it set up so she's going to take out Thanos? I still don't see her power. I mean, her power levels seem like, she could not with the Infinity Gauntlet. No way, not with the freaking Infinity Gauntlet. Not a chance. Wait. So how did she get her powers? Magic beans? No, Annette Bening's faster than light drive was driven by whatever power in her power core of the engine. And then Carol Danvers shoots the engine with Annette Bening's little ray gun so that the Kree can't get it. And when the engine explodes, all of that power goes into Carol Danvers. And then she loses her memory for some reason. Just sent you an email. Oh, right on, Marta. I wish she was in the 50% that got snapped. They should have made Katie Sackhoff Captain Marvel. This movie would have been 10,000 times better with Katie Sackhoff as Captain Marvel. Honestly, of all the people in all of the world, never mind Hollywood. Well, okay, let's just focus on Hollywood. And all the people in Hollywood they could have cast, I'm fairly certain this is one of the worst possible choices. Because your main character has to be charismatic. It doesn't even matter how good looking they are. They have to be charismatic. They have to make you like them. You never like this character. There is nothing she does. She does not have a save the cat moment. She does not have any moment that endears you to her in any way. She is just a snide, conceited, flat-faced, in the term of expression. I'm not saying she's got a flat nose or anything. inexpressive. She's a plank of wood. She's got the personality of a bag of hammers. She is literally a black hole on the screen that just sucks up all the life and doesn't give any. Natalie Dormer would have been better, of course. So she's Brie Larson. Yes. She's essentially Brie. She is actually I've enjoyed Brie Cheese more than I enjoyed Brie Larson. No offense, Brie, if you're watching. Brie Larson is one of the most unlikable people on the planet. Well, that's not a question, but okay. Mike Rant. Katie Sackhoff is almost 40. Well, here's the thing. She goes and she spends 23 years in space, comes back, and looks exactly the same. So what they could have done was they could have grabbed Katie Sackhoff. They could have de-aged her like they did for 2 other characters in this movie, de-aged her for this movie, right? So that she was an appropriate age in 1995, and then brought her forward to our time where she could be 40 years old. And that would have worked great. It would have worked perfectly, actually. What an insult to a bag of hammers. Such a shame. Sounds like a pointless film. Black Widow would have been better. Black Widow would have been better. Hollywood ain't casting a 39-year-old in that role. Maybe Katie doesn't hate men enough for the role. I know, right? Ranking against other MCU movies were any worse. MCU movies? Actually, like legitimate Marvel Creative Universe movies, or just like Marvel movies? Because yeah, I think I'd probably rather watch this than Daredevil again. That was just such a piece of crap. But like the Daredevil movie, not this. No, of the modern crop of the last 21 Marvel films, definitely the worst. Definitely the worst. Yeah, I would have rather watched any of the Hulk movies again than this movie. Homecoming was SJW hell. I'd rather watch Green Lantern than this movie. Honestly, I would rather watch Green Lantern twice than have to watch this movie again. Daredevil, the movie. Yeah, Rhaegar, that was such a stink bomb. Holy cow, that was terrible. All right. Anyways, I think that's it, guys. Oh yeah, Thor 2 was immensely better than this. Immensely. Because at the very least, even if the script wasn't perfect, even the directing wasn't perfect, the story wasn't perfect, Chris Hemsworth is charismatic. And I don't understand. Casting directors, that should be their first job, is to cast the right lead for a movie. And this was she alone ruined this movie. And it wasn't all of her politics aside. It was her performance in this movie by itself that ruined this movie. If you could somehow, someday, reshoot all her parts with somebody with charisma, I'd watch it again. But no. Anyways, thank you all for joining me in this little excursion. I am so glad that I survived Mr. Marvel. I mean, Miss Marvel. Oh, I mean, Captain Marvel. I can't wait to see Alita again. And I can't wait to see Shazam. And I can't wait for this to be a bad, bad memory. Thank you all for being here. And I'll see you tomorrow's.